Hello, my name's Adam Winstock. I'm a consultant addiction psychiatrist and founder of the Global Drug Survey. I'm really sorry that I can't be there in person, but I've been asked to make a small contribution around my thoughts on the role of the police and prison in promoting harm reduction. Now, I'm not someone who's involved in drug policy, but I have trained lots of police forces about recognising and responding to risks related to drugs and alcohol, and I've also worked within the prison system. I've also worked within the treatment system for about 25 years, and I'm all too familiar with the punishing consequences of a criminal record and the relatively small benefit that having time in prison actually has on your drug use. And one of the things that's got me really thinking recently is thinking about the population of people who use drugs and who deterrent criminalisation might be effective for. So if you think about cocaine, based on GDS data, I'd estimate that something like 20% of the heaviest cocaine users are responsible for 80% of the consumption of cocaine. Now, most of that 20% have probably got issues with dependence, possibly underlying comorbidity, trauma, adult ADHD, depression. Those people don't need to be banged up in prison, they need drug treatment. And of course, current drug laws act as a deterrent for those people moving into treatment. And then you think about, the 80% who might use cocaine 10 or 15 times a year. They're probably otherwise fairly law-abiding citizens, they pay their taxes, they've got families, they go to work. For them, the criminal record is going to scar them for life. It's not going to act as a deterrent to their drug use. It would have cost hundreds, maybe thousands of pounds to put them through the court system. And once they've got a criminal record, their ability to earn money and contribute as a reasonable member of society actually diminishes. So I just think, who does the drug law benefit? And I don't think it benefits anyone at all. In fact, it costs lives. And there doesn't seem to be any rationale for it. I know I'm talking to perhaps the converted. It took me a while to understand a way where I felt comfortable to accept that. And then think about the fact that the police and prisons are environments potentially where you could do some good. I mean, I do have patients who would say their lives have been transformed and even saved because of a break in prison. But that's a pretty sad indictment of society, because that's often only because they're street homeless and they haven't been able to get, a secure roof over their head. If the only place you can get 3 square meals and a roof over your head is by committing crime and banging up in prison, that's a pretty sad indictment of society. Saying that, prisons can be a place where you can engage people in treatment, where you can describe and inform people about the benefits of treatment and get people stable, and possibly even then have them engaged in effective opiate substitution treatment when they leave. And that could be a good thing. But it would be much better, of course, that if they weren't there in the first place. But I guess for me, the most challenging thing is, how can we change drug policy at a time when cultures are ready to embrace that and not use unfettered access, perhaps through a regulated market, as a way of actually increasing people's use. And although drug laws can be changed relatively quickly once you've got through all the ideological and political barriers, I actually think the bigger challenge is to change the way we talk about drug use within society. A lot of people are worried that if you made drugs more easy to access or reduce criminal penalties, people would increase their use of drugs. I actually don't think that's the case. Global Drug Survey published a paper in 2018 where we looked at the impact of a number of hypothetical scenarios on people who use drugs. And overwhelmingly, the impact was that people were more likely to talk to their families about their drug use and seek out treatment and advice. That's a really good thing. I think it was less than 5% said that they might use more. Really importantly, those people who didn't use drugs said that just because drugs were legal, it was unlikely that they were going to go out and start using them. And of course that makes sense. I mean, golf and cricket are legal, but I don't play them. I don't know why many people do. So a lot of our choices are not driven by law. They're driven by the things that we get pleasure from. And that's the other thing ultimately that's missing from conversations around drug use because of zero tolerance drug laws, that we can't actually say using drugs occasionally can be quite nice. What we can't then also say to people is saying, look, most people who use drugs do so moderately. And they're the people who probably get the best deal. They don't build up tolerance, they don't spend loads of money, they don't kind of have lots of other impacts necessarily on their lives. I know that even one episode of using cocaine or MDMA or LSD, you can end up in the emergency department. Acute risk always exists. But for most people, the more often you use a drug and the more you use, the greater your risk of harm. But your pleasure does not go up. And so I think we need to start having more honest conversations around how the risks of drugs are very much related to frequency of use and how much you use. And that's going to require us treating people as adults who are interested in their own health and well-being, which they are. If governments continue to paternalise and infantilise and make decisions for a population, when the population understands those decisions aren't based on evidence, they are based on ideology, then our population is never going to trust us when we start having adult conversations. If you're old enough to vote, you're old enough to make a decision what to do with your own body, and you're old enough to start having conversations about how to look after yourself. And I think changes in drug policy would help us have better conversations, which would improve the culture of drug use, and which for everyone would actually improve their health and well-being. So I hope you've had a really enjoyable Zoom conference, and thank you.